And good morning, Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill. It's Friday. It's May the 19th. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a rainy day here in Eastern North Carolina, but the sun is shining bright here in this office and here at this podcast. I am so grateful to be with you guys this Friday morning. We have so many great opportunities right here in our nation's backyard. And I am so glad to be able to speak with you this morning. This morning, we will have one guest, brand new guest, Raymond Arroyo. He is coming over to us talking about the Turnabout Tales, these amazing books. And, I'm so excited that we're talking with him. One, he's very well known in mainstream media, on Fox News, EWTN, you name it, you will see him there. But he just started writing these Turnabout Tale books, The Unexpected Light of Thomas Alva Edison. And you're going to hear the inspiration behind these amazing children's books. If you have not done so, I'm putting up on the screen here at Common Sense America. I would love for you to go check out his website, because if you are a caregiver, a mama, a papa, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, and you are looking for some great books for your children, go to his website. He has amazing books for kids. And what I absolutely love, and I'm so excited about this because, what we talk about education here all the time at Common Sense America. We talk about the fact that we're looking for other greater opportunities for the hearts and minds of tomorrow. And that's not found in a lot of the schools anymore. And you guys, we all know about that. So instead, let's focus on some great opportunities for the hearts and minds of tomorrow. Let's find some great literature, education, application for those young kids. And Raymond has these books. I want to, before he hops over, he's going to hop over just about 5 minutes after the hour, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. And I'm not going to do too many rants this morning. We're going to keep it short. He's going to join us for one segment, and then we will hop off the air and enjoy Friday. Oh, and by the way, all right, sidebar. Let me do one sidebar. Blue Angels are here in Eastern North Carolina at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. They are here tomorrow, May 20th, and Sunday, May the 21st. Am I going to sneak around and maybe get some interviews? You betcha. So now that they are, I neglected to mention that we are in month of military appreciation. We are in the month focusing on military families and military spouses. So yes, hubby and I are going to go over to Seymour Johnson and see the Blues fly. And I'm going to see if I can sneak a couple interviews to air next week. All next week, program note, we will have all new faces, young voices, book authors, NRB guests, political guests, you name it. We're bringing them here to Common Sense America. And some many great interviews going into June. The full first week of June booked completely. I'm so excited for you guys to get to know some very talented, gifted Americans who are all about God, country, and family. That's what we're here about here at Common Sense America. So save the date for next week. If you are looking for opportunities in leadership, if you are looking for application, if you are looking for the next step in your career journey, or whether you are a new college graduate and you say, what do I do now? Well, check out Monday's episode, 9 a.m. here Eastern Time. We have a great new author talking about the hurdles, the journey to the destination of great leadership. So that an episode you do not want to miss. But let me tell you a little bit about Raymond and these beautiful books that he has been writing and has been published by Zonderkidz, which is an amazing book publishing house for kids' books. So, about Raymond. He is a teller of beloved tales, a New York Times bestselling author, internationally known, award-winning journalist, broadcaster, producer, and humorist. His picture books and middle grade series have touched generations of readers. And his live appearances have left audiences inspired, uplifted, and doubled over with laughter. So you will get to meet him in just a few minutes, and I'm excited for you to meet him. Let me tell you about The Unexpected Light of Thomas Alva Edison book tour. Let me talk to you a little bit about this book. Again, it's Turnabout Tales. And the cover and the beautiful cover, you can go to Amazon and pick it up. And he shares on his website, I am thrilled to share with you the cover reveal for the first book in the Turnabout Tales series from Zonderkidz, which is HarperCollins. This first book contains the largely hidden turnabout tale of how curious Thomas Alva Edison became the world's greatest inventor. You and your families are going to love this series, exploring the origins of great lives. It released on March 23rd. So, if you have not done so, hop over to Amazon and pick up a copy for your kids. You know, we're headed into summer. Spring break has come and gone. We are now focused on summer. What are we going to do with the kids for the summer? What's on their reading list? What do they have ahead? So consider picking up Raymond's books that are very much focused on educating the young minds, inspiring the young minds of tomorrow. And really, another piece to this interview, and that he has talked about in many other interviews, is really focusing on homeschooling. Thomas Edison's mother saw that he was not adapting to school. So he talks about the homeschooling aspect, seeing the gifts and talents in your young kids' minds, and how parents, guardians, grandparents, aunts, and uncles can really tap into that and to guide them to be somebody pretty spectacular. So I'm looking forward to you meeting Raymond. We are just waiting for him to hop over here to Common Sense America. And so we're going to just take a quick break and we'll be right back. Thanks for joining this morning. And good morning, Common Sense America. We are back here, and I am so grateful to have each and every one of you. If you have not done so, go over to YouTube, subscribe to Common Sense America with Eden Hill. If you are watching on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, thank you so much for joining. It is an honor and a pleasure to bring over to the show Raymond. I've just been talking your book up left and right this morning, and I'm so honored to have you here. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me on. Delighted to be with you.
My pleasure. You know, we have a lot of people in common. I was talking to your publicist and I said, there's a lot of overlap here, but I never had the opportunity to meet you. But I was reading so many of your children's books. Oh my goodness. And I love the stories that you're bringing out there. It's phenomenal. So talk to me about what you are doing with Turnabout Tales. You have one. How many
Yeah.
more are coming? But talk to me about the inspiration behind this.
Well, I wanted to create a series because, look, we're losing our history in so many ways. There are
Yes.
other concerns in school curricula, and it's sort of pushing out the great American stories that you and I grew up on, so many of your viewers grew up on, and
Yes.
listeners. And so I thought, as I traveled to schools, because I've written other children's books at Christmas time, a middle grade series for Random
Mhm.
House. So I visit a lot of schools. And
Mhm.
what I saw was there was this general unknowing, ignorance of these great American figures. So I thought, how can I reanimate these lives and make them very vital to
Mhm.
kids and their parents
Mhm.
today?
Yeah.
So I started digging through some of these big, huge biographies. Somebody gave me a biography of Edison that I have to confess, I went years without reading it. I finally decided to do so. And it blew my mind because at the end of the book, there was an interview by Edison where he says, "My mother was the making of me, and if not for her allowing me to follow my bent and her belief in me at a particular time, I should never have become an inventor."
Mm.
And I thought to myself, wait a minute, who is this mother and what is this critical time he's talking about? So
Right.
when I discovered that part of the story that I knew nothing of, which is that Thomas Edison was thrown out of school when he was 8 years old and told he was an imbecile who could not be taught. He went home in tears to his mother, and his mother, Nancy Edison, who was an educator, a teacher in Canada,
Uh-huh.
took him back to the school and told the headmaster, "My son has more intelligence than you'll ever have. He has
Mm.
more curiosity than you'll ever have. And
Mm.
I will take him home and homeschool him myself."
Mhm. Mhm.
Thomas Edison should really be the patron saint of homeschooling. I mean,
Yes.
this is a guy who that was the end of his formal training in the classroom in
Mhm.
second grade. It
Mhm.
was really his mother's oversight and guidance in education that led him to read deeply, consider things in a different way. And let's face it, he probably had ADHD and would have been
Yes.
diagnosed as such
Yes.
today.
Yes.
His mother saw the curiosity and the spark, and she adapted the learning to her son
Mhm.
rather than adapting her son to the learning. That is
Yes.
a critical mistake I think we all make today and continue to make. So I turned all of this into a picture book, what I call a family read, called
Yes.
The Unexpected Light of Thomas Alva Edison. And the unexpected light is not only the curiosity and the possibility that was within Edison,
Mhm.
but the possibility that's in every child reading the book.
Mhm.
And the real light in his life was his mother, Nancy Edison.
Yes. Well, talk to me about this. We see what's happening in our school systems today. I have so many people on my show, educators. I have those who are concerned citizens, and we see so many things happening in our public school systems.
Mm.
So let's talk about school choice. Let's talk about homeschooling. Let's talk about the gift of homeschooling our kids, especially post COVID. Look at everything that happened. And, you had the question mark of, oh, wow, this is actually happening to my kids in public school education. It's a watered down history lesson. It is more of a cult, if you will, of what they were teaching of the woke aspects. So, having these powerful books for these young minds of tomorrow, let's talk about the homeschooling piece. What would you say to the parents and the guardians and the grandparents out there who
Well,
are trying to figure out what's ahead?
and look, I have friends who homeschool. My wife homeschooled our kids for a time, but then, there are situations that don't always allow you to homeschool your child. But
Exactly.
whatever your situation, the lesson in this book for me
Mhm.
is that we all have a role when it comes to our children's education. And at times, it's only the parent who sees the light and the possibility and the path that that child must take. And it's up
Mhm.
to each of us to
Yeah.
guide and lead that child down that path. In the case of Edison, when you read many of his interviews, particularly later in life, he was a big fan of Maria Montessori and her approach to learning, which of
Uh-huh.
course is still so forward-looking and relevant today. Um,
Yes.
and Edison said, you have to learn not only with your head, but with your hands. And
Mm.
Nancy Edison allowed him to do that. She gave him the classics. She gave him scientific manuals of the day that would feed his passion, which was
Mhm.
science and electricity and the steam engine and the invention. Even as a young boy, 12, 10 years old. And then he was working, Eden. And this is something we forget too.
Yeah.
Edison was a hustler. From the time he was 12 years old, he was working the railroads. He was selling newspapers, and he quickly realized, I can turn a profit doing this. So rather than splitting the money with the guy who was buying the newspaper from, Edison built his own printing press in the baggage compartment of the train and printed his own paper and sold that because he could sell it at a profit. So always you see both the innovator and the capitalist sort of moving as one
Yes.
at a very early age. And he was creating things people needed and wanted. That is also part of Edison's genius. And I love the line. I tell kids this all the time. They called him a genius. They said Edison was a genius. And he said, no, genius is sticking to it. The genius is sticking to it. And he said, our greatest weakness as a people lies in giving up. And most of the time, if you keep looking, there is one more answer. And you have to press for it. That was always sort of Edison's approach to invention. He was a trial by error inventor. He learned that in Nancy Edison's front yard. That's where this all came from. And look, for those who would poo-poo and say, oh, Thomas Edison, that's so long ago. Look, stop. The microphone we're communicating on, created by Thomas Edison.
Yes.
The light bulb, Edison. The motion picture camera, Edison. The alkaline battery that powers your cell phone and everything else in your life, Edison. The first electric car, Edison. The tattoo pen, the curling iron. I could go on for like an hour. The man was a fountain of either refinements or creations that we live with every day, or that the next step of the creative process are around us. So we still bask in the glow of Thomas Edison, and I would say his mother, Nancy, who saw the possibility first.
And how perfect for the month of May being for our military spouses, our military families, and our mothers for Mother's Day. How perfect to honor Nancy and saying that. Talk to me about what other Turnabout Tales do you have coming down the pike?
Well, again, a Turnabout Tale, and the way we're framing the series, and you're right, this is the first in a series. Every Turnabout Tale will look at an historic life, a great life, mostly American, but not all. I have a couple that are not Americans, but most of them are. And the theme of the series, if you will, the motto is challenges faced, decisions made, history turned. Because every one of us, none of us are going to create the light bulb, okay? But all of us will face the, at times, traumatic obstacles that Thomas Edison faced in his life, or that each of these figures face in their life. What I love when I go to school visits, and I was just in Nashville last week talking to these great, hundreds of kids, the light in their eyes when they realize that they are struggling with the same thing that this historic figure struggled with. And it points them, I think it gives them hope, but it also gives them a way forward and lets them know there is a path for you here. And I've had so many children ask me, we have 6 million kids diagnosed with ADHD in this country.
I didn't realize it was that high.
6 million. And I have so many kids ask me, and it's curious, it's something I didn't expect. And they raise their hand and they say, did they give Thomas Edison any medicine for his ADHD?
Oh, wow.
And I said, no, they didn't. He learned to cope with it. And actually, it ended up, Eden, being his superpower. Because the ADHD allowed him to hyper-focus on things. He could block everything else out. He bounced from project to project where others could only focus on one. Again, I think we see these things as liabilities. They're superpowers. And I want kids to recognize that. More importantly, I want parents to recognize it. I mean, ADHD is a very fluid, there's not even a firm definition of this. I would argue that it is a curious mind. It is a mind that sees things in a slightly different way, and a mind capable of holding several tasks at once. That may not be something that you need to constrain. It may be something you need to accommodate because there's genius there. And with Edison, he was also deaf, Eden. The man who created the phonograph. He was deaf. By 12 years old, he was deaf. In fact, I just saw there's a man auctioning off who came into possession of Edison's piano from the Edison lab. And on the what do you call that board that covers the keys? I don't know what that is, but that protective board that comes down. On the edge of it, there are marks on it, like scratches and indentions. Turns out those are Edison's teeth marks. He would bite down on the edge of the piano when someone was playing so he could hear the music. It would resonate through his skull. Again, like a cochlear implant today. The
Oh,
forward-thinking genius of this man, I think we've yet to fully appreciate. And I know he could be a pirate at times, and he was a tough capitalist, and he threw patents and lawyers around, but I don't know too many capitalists and successful men who don't. My next Turnabout Tale, you will love, I hope everybody will love. It's called The Magnificent Mischief of Tad Lincoln. And it is about the youngest son of Abraham Lincoln, a story I knew very little about. I knew about Lincoln, of course, and thought I knew everything about him. And I stumbled upon this family tale that connects the youngest son of Tad Lincoln with
mhm,
not only keeping his father sane during the darkest days of the Civil War,
right.
but we have Tad Lincoln to thank for our national holiday
Mm.
and a particular devotion, a particular act that the White House does every year as the year comes to an end. I don't want to ruin it, but it's a
Oh, I can't
really,
wait.
it's a really neat. It's a national holiday tradition that we take for granted, and we have Abraham Lincoln and his son Tad to thank for it. And I
Mm,
love the idea. The Edison book is really about a mother who saves and guides her son.
mhm.
This book is really about a son who saves his father in some
Oh,
way.
oh,
It's
you're
really
pulling
a
out the
beautiful story.
heartstrings. Oh, you're
I know,
pulling
I
out the
love it.
heartstrings.
It's
Well,
very sweet.
as we head into summer, I always put out the top best reading for the summer for adults and for kids. So,
I
and I
love
was
it.
saying to them before you came on, I said, go over to your website and check out all of your books because you know what, kids? Here is what you need to read this summer. Talk to me about the ages of your books
Well,
for the kids.
I write, Eden. The truth is, like L. Frank Baum, who wrote the Wizard of Oz series.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, he used to say, "I write for the young and the young at heart," and
mhm.
that's who I write for. I
Yeah,
write for a spectrum of ages. Really, a 4-year-old can read this book and they will appreciate it because there's slapstick and there's
yeah.
barns burning down and there are things happening, balloons being created. There's lots happening in this book.
Mhm.
Edison saves a child where freight train's about to crush him. He saves that child, and that, by the way, is the good deed that is his second Turnabout Tale. So the first is
Mm.
when he's thrown out of school, his mother saves him. The second one really sets him on his life's path, and it's a good deed. So again, you want to sensitize people to seeing that, both children and adults. But so I write in the foreground for children. In the
Okay.
background, I'm really writing for the child to be and for the
Yes.
adult. So they will both get slightly different experiences. But the real reason I write for kids and families, Eden,
Mhm,
is so that they can have that communication together.
mhm.
It's that conversation between the ages that I'm looking to create
Yes.
because that will be more rich, more satisfying, more memorable than anything I put between the pages of that book.
Mhm.
Those pages are really there to facilitate a sharing of wisdom and understanding between the child and the parent or the grandparent or the aunt and uncle and that child. That's what I'm looking to do. And I love that it becomes then a memento of that moment between
Mhm.
them and something much bigger than any story I told.
Yes, and you know what? That really goes to the theme of this show because I always talk about the kitchen table
Yeah.
conversations that happen in the home. And I cite back to when I was a kid, sitting around the kitchen table, having those discussions,
Yeah.
reading those books. I
Yeah.
always remember that time period. And I always say to everyone here from the halls of Congress to running for state house, I said, you know what? It's not your elected officials who are going to make the difference. It's you in your
Correct.
home at the kitchen table having these discussions with your kids.
Eden, I was just talking to a group in Charlotte, North Carolina the other day, and they were fretting about the debt and the China intrusion and what do we do and the division in the country. I said, stop, just stop for a minute. Your responsibility is
Mhm,
to make your home a place of harmony
mhm,
and justice and goodness where you can raise the next generation of engaged citizens. But the only way to do that is to make that family whole and then the community whole and then the city whole. That's your job. If you
yeah,
do that, that's enough. The rest will take care of itself. You are not going to stop the debt or the war in Ukraine. That's beyond you. And,
Yeah.
and you can lose your peace over it. You can get upset about it. You can stamp and fume and fuss. It's your community that's most important. And
Mhm.
that's the thing you can affect most. And that's why I wanted to write these books, to remind
Mhm.
people of the power of parents and families and children, and why that interplay is so important to not only our lives, but to the lives of countless others. Imagine if Nancy Edison had said, along with her husband, by the way, Sam Edison, I don't write this in the book, but it's true.
Uh-huh.
Sam Edison thought his son was a dunce. And Thomas Edison, in later interviews, said, my father thought I was a complete idiot, because he was probably a withdrawn child because he couldn't really hear, and
Yeah.
he had ADHD. But he said brilliantly, the deafness drove me to reading, and
Mm.
it allowed me to focus deeply on a problem.
Mm.
Sometimes, I was reading today, Neil Gaiman, who's one of my favorite authors. He's a fantasy author. He's written a lot of kind of comedies and fantasy stuff. But Gaiman said, um, before I create, I go for a long, boring walk, and boredom is the doorway to creativity.
Mhm. It is.
Edison really had the same approach. He's so hyper focused, he could be creative because there was nothing else to distract him. And we
Mhm.
are so distracted today because of these
Yes.
blasphemy that
Yes.
I think our lives are broken, shattered, and we're worried about things, frankly, we should not worry about.
Yeah. What we really need to be bringing it back to is the faith, the family, the kitchen table conversations, and
I agree.
removing the phones. I always say, my husband and I go fishing. I say, pitch the phone. I'm not going to be on the phone. I'd rather throw it in the ocean, because we need to focus on each other and our
Yeah,
family, and that at that
yeah,
certain time
yeah.
period. One final question. I know
Yeah.
you got to go. I know you're short on time, but I'm so glad to have you here.
Oh, I'm delighted to be with you.
I was looking at your Christmas books, and
Oh,
my podcast is all about Christmas and around the holidays. I start Christmas November 1st. I
you get in early.
I
Forget
get it.
Advent for you. You're already off to the races.
I
Okay.
am already off to the races. So I would love to have you come back to talk
would-
about your Christmas books. But if you could just give a little teaser to
Yeah.
all the mama bears that tune into my show, just share a little bit about your
Well,
Christmas book.
Christmas, as in your home and as in all of our homes, Christmas is such a beautiful and special time. It's when everybody you love comes home, they come together. It's a rare time of life, and we take it for granted, and it's not forever. And I
Right.
tell people that all the time. I'm going to start crying. That beautiful. There's a great Sinatra song. What's that called? Christmas Memories. And he
Mhm.
says, and I see faces of all the children that now have children of their own.
Yeah.
And I always weep when I hear that line, because they grow so fast. Your parents, your grandparents, they're not here forever. So
Right.
these are, again, opportunities to create memories that will last the rest of your life. So
Mhm.
the books I write, both the Spider Who Saved Christmas, as well as the Wise Man book, The Wise Man Who Found Christmas, both of those books are really tied to the central mystery and the centerpiece of Christmas, which
Yeah.
is the coming of the Christ child.
Yeah.
In the first book, The Spider Who Saved Christmas is a very old legend from the 1st or 2nd century. There may be some truth to it, but it has a very old pedigree. But I love that it explains why we decorate our trees with tinsel. It's an Eastern European tradition, probably a Ukrainian folktale, but it has a long history. And I love the story so much. It's so sweet and tender. And it really is about all of us being here for a reason, no matter how small.
Mm.
So I love that story. And it's a great one to share with families. And it has done the letters I get about that book. Because again, it's touching people, and it's what they're sharing together more than the story
Yes.
I wrote. So there's that. And the Wise Men book is about the 3 wise men, the real story of the 3 wise men. They were
Mm.
not from the East. They were not, there may have been more than 3 of them.
Mhm.
And they were certainly not from Persia.
Mm.
So all the
Mm.
things we know of the wise men are
Right.
very false. I dug in deeply and discovered where they came from, what those items meant.
Mhm.
Frankincense, gold, myrrh, and it enriches the story that we all took for granted. We thought we knew, and it kind of blew my mind in the research. I said I have to share this somehow. So I was thrilled to do that. But look, I hope everybody goes out and reads The Unexpected Light of Thomas Alva
Yes.
Edison, and
Yes.
then
Please.
this October, the Magnificent Mischief of Tad Lincoln is coming, which is kind of a
Oh.
slapstick heartbreaking, sweet tale of family that I never encountered before. So I'm thrilled to be able to tell it in this way for families.
Oh, well, I cannot wait. And put me on your schedule for October. I cannot wait to have you back. Oh, I am going out as soon as we get off of here and buying your newest book for all of the kiddies in my life. My husband and I don't have any kids, but we are godparents. We mentor kids. So you probably will see a big number go up because I'm so excited to see your books out.
Thank you, Eden.
Hey, have a great week at NRB next week.
You too. We'll see. Well, I'll see you soon. But thank you so much. Thank you for having me on, and more importantly, for spreading common sense to your listeners and your viewers. It's so critical today, and it is a rarity. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Many blessings to you. I look forward to meeting you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And for all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. I am so honored and thankful to have amazing authors like Raymond join our show. If you have not done so, hop over to Amazon or go over to his website. It's going across the bottom half of the screen, and buy his books. Get them for your kids for this summer reading. There are quite a few, as he was talking about, his Christmas books. And save the date in October. Another new one's coming out on Tad Lincoln. Oh, this is going to be phenomenal. So thank you, Raymond. Thank you to your team for coming over to the show here at Common Sense America on Friday, May the 19th. Many blessings to you and your team as you head to NRB next week. So excited to be a preview for what is ahead for your many phenomenal books to come. And on this Friday, we are going to end the show early today. You know what? Because this lady has a lot to do for next week for you, for the audience. We have a lot of great guests coming to you. I have a lot of planning I have to do. And you know what? Like I said, I'm going to sneak and see if I can't get a couple Blue Angel interviews from the weekend as we head over to Goldsboro to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. So have a blessed weekend. Thank you so much for all of your support to Common Sense America, and we'll see you next week. Be strong and be courageous. Put on the full armor of God. We'll see you soon.
It's time for Common Sense America.